Hello, everybody. Welcome to another super awesome coffee break. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Nir Bashan. I am the author of a book called The Creator Mindset, which was recently nominated a top 100 nonfiction book of all time. How that happened, I don't know, but I am entirely grateful. We got a really special one today. I have Bryan Kuderna, who published a book called What Should I Do with My Money? Economic Insight to Build Wealth Amid Chaos. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nir. I'm happy to be here.
So, Bryan, I went through this book, right? And I read the whole dang thing. And you have, it's like a sledgehammer, man. This thing is like so big. And it's just like, boom, I'm coming down with a ton of information. Bryan, why this book and why now?
Yep. So I think it was almost the perfect time because, I mean, every day that you turn on the news, you're just inundated with these headlines, whether it's inflation, the Fed raising interest rates, China and Russia, the stock market, social issues, whatever the case may be. I mean, you look at the news for 5 minutes and it's like, what do I do? Like, I'm just this one person in this rat race where it seems like things are spiraling out of control. And you get kind of that sense from some people of like, what's it matter? Like, do I just kind of throw up my hands and say, what do I do with my money? Like, what do I do with all this? And that was really the crux of the book is like, let's look at this from a standpoint of all the opportunity that's out there and how to really take advantage of the economy we're in today and make a lot of complex matters, simple so that they're relatable to you and your money.
I love it. I mean, most books about finance are, kind of like, oh, this is my approach. Nobody's ever known this approach ever before. And it made me millions. Look at me, right? It's just like, this is not that book. And you end each chapter by talking about kind of the different framework, which is incredible. You talk about the environment, technology, war, religion, education, entitlements. You end every chapter by saying, okay, this is what in that context you should do with your money. Why did you set it up that way? Why don't you just give us stock tips?
Yep. No, I'm glad that you asked that question because I often tell people, like, if you don't have a sense of conviction in what you're doing, then, why even do it? It's kind of like, all right, I heard this stock tip or whatever, and then you don't act on it, for whether it's paralysis by analysis or you just don't understand really the why. So the point of what I was trying to do with the book is look at these 9 domains of economics that I seem to be, view as very important. And if we gain an understanding of kind of how they work the way they do, why we got to the situation that we're in today, whether it's entitlements or student loans or you name it, then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more real. And it's kind of like, all right, I get it. And then once we understand that, that's when I kind of hit them with the more pragmatic, this is now what you can do in your own world to kind of make this connection between the macro and the micro so that all of a sudden, we can have that conviction and understand why we're doing what we're doing.
My guest today, Bryan Kuderna, who published a book called What Should I Do with My Money? Economic Insight to Build Wealth Amid Chaos. This is a powerhouse of a book. It's a sledgehammer of a book. You talk in it a lot about, I love the stories, right? You kind of set up stories in the beginning of chapters. And one of my favorite chapters that you talked about in here is about the millennial who starts investing just because he sees something on Facebook and he has, a couple of dollars, but he has no plan, right? He's investing, but he has no plan. Bryan, can you tell me why a plan is so important?
Yeah. So, I mean, investing is certainly an important aspect of financial planning, but it's not a financial plan in and of itself. Okay. It's just kind of one spoke of the wheel. So once we recognize that, I think then we can look at all the different elements that go in building a sound plan and building financial security for the future. And then one of the last pieces would be, here's the stocks to buy, the funds to invest in, and so forth. And I think that's usually the introduction for a lot of, young professionals is they're seeing stock market tips, every day from Kramer to CNBC, Fox Business, and they want to get on their Robinhood app or whatever it might be and start throwing their money out into the universe, but they don't have a plan. And so naturally, then we're just kind of throwing it up to the wind. And for better or worse, that the plan kind of unfolds by happenstance. And I think you got to have some sense of direction to really get to where you want to go.
My guest again today is Bryan Kuderna, who published a book called What Should I Do with My Money? A fantastic McGraw-Hill release. Bryan, a question I ask all my guests is about creativity, and I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. How did this book make us more creative?
So there's a number of ways I think it can kind of help, lead a more creative life. And one of the things I like to harp on is what I call the 3 I's. Okay. And so when people go into a career, I think they're looking at income, independence, and impact. You have these 3 triggers there that I think are a good way to evaluate, am I on track with what I'm doing? Or someday am I going to have that midlife crisis and say, where the heck did I end up? And so I think that's a good thing, whether you're an entrepreneur or a manager, to sit down with your team and evaluate those things, often through study groups, or different ways that we can foster some conversation there to say, where do you feel in respect to your income, your independence, or the impact that you're having each day you show up to work? And so those are some of the things from a practical standpoint that I think, business owners and managers could take advantage of.
Super cool. The book again, What Should I Do with My Money? Go out and get a copy. This is a McGraw-Hill release, a powerhouse of a book. Bryan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure, Nir. Good talking to you.